Thank you very much, Riv, and what a game there to conclude what is our scheduled matches, and to think we still have one more to decide.
And you predicted AHQ.
Yeah, why would I predict AHQ?
Yeah.
I should have listened to Officio because of EDG's strong early game that they were going to be able to come through.
Absolutely, absolutely. But no, I mean, I think what I love about this is exactly that. We identified so many of the different ways that AHQ could get ahead, and a lot of those things did play out. And a few fights that we will take a look at in a little bit, going one way or the other, could have spelled the end of it all for EDG.
Yeah, and Pawn is like an anime hero. He sits on the bench, he recovers from injury, and just when they need him, after everyone is dead, he comes in and just zones them off of Baron. What was he, like 8-0-8 or something at the end of that game? Superhuman performance from Pawn, and he saves EDG's season.
But so many surprises in this game. TF was left open where it really matters. And I'm like, okay, they have something prepared like Fizz or Pantheon or something to counter the TF. Vladimir. I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't want to kill him early game or anything? Just going to let Westor actually be aggressive and try and play the map. Ziv gets his split push out top lane. It actually looked really, really good, and I thought EDG would do much better early game, but then after the draft, it was very clear they couldn't really do anything early game with Vlad and Poppy having to scale.
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation where Ziv was just hammering on the top lane there. We saw him take down the turret solo at one point with about a 50 CS lead, and that's exactly what you want, a split push presence from him on that Gnar. And then Westor on the TF should, you know, ideally be able to affect the side lanes and come in for ganks.
This is actually one of the first times I've seen Westor take down the opponent mid-turret first. And also, if you look at, like, TF is a huge pick for him. 46% of bans went to TF in the regular season. People did not want him to get in that champion. And they actually had a really well composition to finish off the game if they got the Baron buff. They have long range and the enemy has to run into them. They were really, really close. And I feel like AHQ has to walk away from this feeling pretty frustrated.
And I do want to dive into our first replay 18 minutes into the game. This is for AHQ, a 2-for-0 with a great TP from Ziv down to the bot lane.
Yeah, you just saw Vladimir in the mid lane, so why on earth is EDG pushing a tower against a Twisted Fate and a top laner with teleport? You're literally asking the other team to just use 2 globals to kill you in the bottom lane.
Mountain had a gorgeous play there, by the way, to flash, break the spell shield with Q, and then stun Def, and that only set up Ziv's amazing Gnar ultimate against the wall. This was super crisp from HQ. Jillian there, just...
Yeah, he's baiting, he's gonna flash out. But the crazy thing to me is EDG is the team in the LPL who plays a ton of globals. They are the team who used globals to beat RNG and just camp bot lane with globals in the final. And yet when they play against Twisted Fate, they're like, what can you do? Can you TP bot lane if my mid lane is sitting mid? Probably not. And then they go for that push, and you're like, you almost deserve to lose basing on a play like that because you just allowed the TF to do exactly what he wants to do. And this was one of the main reasons they fell so far behind early.
Right, and with that being behind, of course, we looked at AHQ continuing to grow their lead, and then they make the stab at Baron. 30 minutes into the game, a good move towards it. They do secure it, but the fight that unveils on the back end of it spells disaster.
The turning point in the game right here.
Yeah, like they got deft first, and then they're coming in, they're staying for the fight. Actually, if you see Westor's position, he gets picked off in the fight very early and can't go in to do more damage. Vladimir Pawn himself is holding down 3 people from AHQ, and AHQ just can't get out of the area fast enough. If they keep their parent on 3 people, just walk away from this fight. And why are you TVing here? No!
I mean, honestly, this is inexcusable to me. Yeah. When you realize that 1 or 2 of your members are going down on one side of a fight, and the other 3, Ziv, Ann, and Albus, have the option at that time to completely bail out, preserve more than 1 Baron buff, so you can at least then use Ziv in one lane and 2 Baron buffs in another to make pushes beyond that point. But they were relegated to a single Baron buff at the end of that fight, only on Ziv, and at that point, you don't have the kind of map pressure you need to continue pushing your lead.
No, and you also handed over more gold to the enemy, Vladimir, who was the big carry. In fact, you saw him in this team fight just sitting in the backline. Westor, I think his flank was not good enough right there. He tries to go in with the back. He gets caught instantly. There's such a big difference between Twisted Fate and Vladimir in these late game team fights, especially when Twisted Fate can't really gold card anyone. Vlad was going to pull and spell shield from Civ is so hard.
And I also don't think like AHQ ever played a fight the way they wanted to. They needed to disengage the pool from Vladimir, then either at least Cocoon or Gold Card. And when a Sivir was down, like in that Baron fight, no Sivir in that fight, you can actually focus that because you'd be able to withstand the initial burst. But they didn't do that. They ate the Jinx, and they weren't able to chain any CC off it. They couldn't get the auto attacks, and it was a really poorly played fight by AHQ, but it was the turning point for EDG, and it's the reason they're in the quarterfinals.
And then, of course, from there, EDG felt they had a foothold into the game. That's going to take us to the fight that sent EDG to the knockout round, presented to you by Acer.
And by Clement Chu. What do you think, Clement, right here?
Well, I think that, this is a fight that they could take. It looks like a winning fight. The TP was kind of late, but Mount actually has a very poor positioning choice right here. Gets caught out, and then we see Mount get knocked into a wall again. He's basically dead. Westor flashes in, can't get the damage off.
But he flashes into melee range. On was sitting so far in the back of this fight with both summoner spells up, and people got so low in that fight. If HQ plays these fights a little bit better, obviously
could have won it.
Best team fighting team in this game by far. So you can see the gold swing, and that's just because HQ wasn't playing team fights well.
And it's easy again to look at someone like Westor and just look at the two mid laners and what they're doing in these late game fights. If his TF is actually also focusing on peeling for his AD carry, it's much easier for Arn to pick the right targets. And if anyone ever gets onto Arn, Tahm Kench will just eat him. But here late game, we talked about how hard it was for TF to actually lock down a target. Mikhails as well, we're going to be built obviously on the support. So if you do stun someone, Mikhails from Mako will come in and just stop someone from dying. And really, it just was impossible, I feel, almost for HQ to win late game. And they're going to look at this game and they're going to be so angry because they had it.
Yeah, I feel like there were multiple adjustments that probably could have been made to get them through that mid-game a little bit smoother and drive it home for a victory. Ultimately, that's not the case. And the player of the game on the other side of the coin is going to be Pawn. Jat, you already mentioned this guy off the bench comes in and saves the Worlds run for EDG.
He's a superhero, 7-0-9. Westor was unable to do effectiveness in team fights. Even when their AD carry was dead, Pawn was winning the fights for them. He was basically their front line because Mouse was having a poor game, and he did absolutely everything they needed him to do. The sub-in worked exactly right, and after this performance, I'd be very surprised to see Scout again.
All right, well, EDG has a little bit of time to gear up to face off against H2K, vying for that first seed here in Group C. Of course, blue side has been selected by H2K. So on the other side of this break, we're going to get into what exactly we think might make or break that matchup. But H2K and EDG are on to the next round. Stick around because when we come back, they'll fight it out for the first seed in Group C.
Thick Skin's there to be used on, back out, fires the ultimate off, and Mako's trying to take him down. He does get the kill. Clearlove instantly in the brush to gain vision and keep it. EDG come up with a kill there in Westor. Mako's still there. Evan Westor's gonna go down. Oh, the Zanyas comes out. He's still going down. It just looks pretty. But EDG doesn't have to choose. Everyone is killable at this point for EDG. And Albus now trying to run out the clock on this one. But it's 50, 60-second death timers. And it looks like EDG is here to stay.
And the #1 seed from the LPL secures quarters. And they say victory or nothing.